It started the day after we buried Dad. The world felt gray, muffled, like someone had thrown a heavy blanket over everything. Dad. He wasn't just our father. He was the anchor for our whole lives. Strong, quiet sometimes, but always there, always fair. He worked his hands raw at the plant for 40 years so we could have it better. And then, just like that, a heart attack stole him. We were sitting in his little house, the one he'd kept spotless, smelling faintly of his pipe tobacco and sawdust from his woodworking hobby. Everything felt too big, too empty without him. Marcus was staring at a photo of Dad holding him up as a little kid, his eyes red. I was just numb. Then Mr. Henderson called, Dad's lawyer. Known him for years, Dad always said Henderson was a sharp guy, handled his business affairs. He asked us to come down to his office the next day. Said we needed to talk about the estate. His office wasn't fancy, but it felt important. Dark wood desk, leather chairs, shelves full of thick books that looked like they hadn't been opened in years. Henderson, he was older, white hair slicked back, wore suits that looked expensive. He gave us this sad smile, offered condolences, talked about what a good man Dad was. It felt practiced. Now, boys, he said, leaning back in his chair, steepling his fingers. Your father was a fine man, but unfortunately it seems he didn't leave a will. Died intestate, as we say in the legal world. Marcus frowned. No will? Dad always said he had everything sorted. He told me specifically, Marcus, don't you worry, everything's taken care of if something happens to me. Henderson gave a little shrug, a sympathetic look that didn't quite reach his eyes. People say things, Marcus. Meanings get confused. We've searched his papers, his safe deposit box. Nothing. It's unfortunate, but it means the estate will have to be divided according to state law. As his only children, you two are the primary heirs, of course. But it'll take time. Probate court, settling debts. He started talking about procedures, fees, administrators. It all sounded complicated and messy. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. It just didn't sound like Dad. He was meticulous. He labeled everything in his workshop. He balanced his checkbook down to the penny. He wouldn't leave things like this, chaotic and uncertain. Are you sure, Mr. Henderson? I asked, my voice quiet. Dad wasn't forgetful. He planned things. Jamal, Henderson said, his voice softening, like he was talking to a child. Grief can make us misremember things. Your father was a wonderful man, but maybe this one detail slipped his mind. It happens more often than you think. Now I'll handle the probate process for you. My fees are standard. We walked out of there feeling heavier than when we went in. Not just with grief, but with this wrongness. Like a coat that didn't fit right. I don't buy it, Jamal, Marcus muttered as we got into my beat-up car. Dad had a will. I know he did. But where is it? I asked. Henderson said he looked everywhere. Henderson, Marcus spat the name out. Something felt off about him, didn't it? It did. But what could we do? He was the lawyer. He had the papers, the knowledge. We were just two brothers trying to figure out how to live without our dad. The next few months were a blur of paperwork and waiting. Henderson would call occasionally, updating us in vague terms. Still working through probate, waiting on the court. A few debts we need to verify. Every time we asked about specifics, he'd wave it off with legal talk we didn't understand. Bills started piling up for the estate. Henderson's fees, court costs, taxes. It felt like Dad's hard-earned money was just evaporating. Meanwhile, there was Brenda. Dad had started seeing her a couple of years after Mom passed. She was younger, always seemed nice enough, but we never felt truly close to her. Dad hadn't married her. After Dad died, she was suddenly around Henderson's office a lot. Henderson mentioned she was making a claim as a dependent, that under interstate law she might be entitled to a share. It complicated things, he said. Made the process longer, more expensive. The doubt festered. Marcus and I talked about it constantly. Remember Dad saying he put something specific aside for Aunt Carol? Marcus asked one night. He mentioned it last Christmas. Yeah, I recalled. And he said he wanted his tools to go to you, Marcus. He was so proud of you taking up woodworking. And he definitely said the house was for us, Jamal. To keep in the family. None of this lined up with dying intestate. Under that scenario, everything would likely be sold off to pay debts and Brenda's potential claim, and whatever was left split. The house, Dad's tools, the specific gift for Aunt Carol, gone. It felt like erasing Dad's wishes. One rainy Saturday, I was cleaning out Dad's desk, sorting through old bills and letters, mostly for something to do, to feel close to him. Tucked inside an old checkbook register, I found a small folded note in Dad's familiar handwriting. It just said, Henderson. Updated copy filed 3/15. Keep safe. The date was from earlier that year. My heart started pounding. Updated copy. Copy of what? It had to be the will. Dad had filed an updated will with Henderson. I called Marcus immediately. He lied, Mark. Henderson lied to us. Dad gave him an updated copy. That was it. The last straw. The quiet grief turned into a hot, simmering anger. Our father's lawyer, the man Dad trusted, was deliberately screwing us over, trying to erase his final wishes. Why? For higher fees from a complicated probate? To help Brenda get a bigger cut? We didn't know, but we knew we had to fight. We scraped together what little money we had and found another lawyer, Ms. Evans. She was younger, sharp, and listened intently, her eyes narrowing as we told her everything, showing her the note I'd found. Unlike Henderson, she didn't talk down. To us, she just got angry with us. This stinks to high heaven, she said, tapping the note. Lawyers have a duty, a sacred trust. If he has a will, he's legally obligated to file it with the court. Hiding it? That's grounds for disbarment, maybe even criminal charges. Ms. Evans went to work. She filed motions, demanded Henderson produce all records related to our father's estate. Henderson stalled. His office sent back incomplete files, claimed things were misplaced. Ms. Evans didn't back down. She was like a bulldog. She filed another motion, this time demanding Henderson appear in court to explain the discrepancies, specifically citing the note I'd found. The court date felt like Judgment Day. Marcus and I wore the only suits we owned, the ones we'd worn to Dad's funeral. Walking into that courtroom, my stomach was churning. Henderson was there with his own lawyer, looking annoyed but trying to appear calm. Brenda was sitting in the back, looking pale. Ms. Evans stood up, calm and clear. She laid out the timeline, our suspicions, the note. She addressed Henderson directly. Mr. Henderson, my client's father provided you with an updated legal document on or around March 15th of this year, a document we believe to be his last will and testament. You have repeatedly failed to produce this document, claiming it does not exist and that Mr. Johnson died intestate. Is that correct? Henderson cleared his throat. As I've stated, we conducted a thorough search. A search of what, Mr. Henderson? Ms. Evans cut him off, her voice sharp. Because I have here correspondence from your own office acknowledging receipt of a sealed envelope from Mr. Johnson on March 16th, logged into your filing system under his client number. Yet that document, that specific log entry, was missing from the files you provided. Where is that document, Mr. Henderson? You could hear a pin drop. Henderson's face went from pink to blotchy red. He stammered something about filing errors, administrative oversights. The judge, an older woman with tired eyes but a no-nonsense look, leaned forward. Mr. Henderson, this is highly irregular. Your response is evasive. I am ordering you to produce the document logged on March 16th under Mr. Johnson's client number. Now, Henderson's lawyer whispered frantically to him. Henderson looked trapped. defeated. He finally nodded curtly to his lawyer, who pulled a thick, sealed envelope from a briefcase. It looked exactly like the kind Dad used for important papers. Ms. Evans took the envelope, showed it to the judge, then turned to us. "May I?" she asked gently. We both nodded, throats tight. She opened it. Inside was a document, several pages long, typed, signed by Dad at the bottom of each page, witnessed and notarized. The last will and testament of Arthur Johnson, Ms. Evans, began to read key parts aloud. Dad's voice, his careful planning, filled the courtroom. He left the house jointly to Marcus and me, with the wish that we keep it in the family. He left his tools to Marcus, his savings divided between us after specific gifts, including one to Aunt Carol, just like we remembered. He left Brenda a modest sum, acknowledging her companionship, but making it clear she wasn't his wife, and his primary obligation was to his sons. He explicitly named us, his sons, as executors, not Mr. Henderson. Everything Henderson told us was a lie. Tears were streaming down my face, not just tears of relief, but tears of anger at the betrayal, and tears of love for my dad, who had taken care of everything, just like he said. Marcus put his arm around my shoulder, his own eyes wet. Across the room, Henderson looked like he'd swallowed poison. Brenda looked shocked, maybe even guilty. Had she known? We didn't know. Didn't care right then. The judge slammed her gavel down. Her voice was cold fury. "Mr. Henderson, your conduct appears to be a serious violation of your professional and ethical duties. This court will be referring this matter to the State Bar immediately. Ms. Evans, please submit the will for probate. The previous intestate proceedings are hereby vacated." Walking out of the courthouse, the gray, muffled feeling was gone. The sun felt warm on my face for the first time in months. We hadn't just won a legal fight, we'd gotten our dad back. We'd honored his wishes. It wasn't the end of the paperwork, of course. Ms. Evans helped us through the real probate, following Dad's will to the letter. We paid off his debts, gave Aunt Carol her gift, and Marcus carefully cleaned and organized Dad's tools in the workshop. The house stayed ours. Henderson lost his license, we heard later, faced other penalties. Brenda faded out of the picture quickly after the hearing, but the hurt lingers. The fact that someone Dad trusted could try to erase him like that, try to cheat his sons, just because we were grieving black men he thought wouldn't fight back, it leaves a scar. But it also brought Marcus and me closer than ever. We learned to lean on each other, to fight for what's right, just like Dad taught us. Every time I walk into Dad's house now, our house, I feel him there. Not just in the smell of tobacco and sawdust, but in the solid walls, the sturdy foundation. He took care of us, even after he was gone, and we made sure his voice was finally heard. That's what matters. That's the truth that finally came out.